He had not planned to return to his old town for so many years. Life had carried him far away, across cities and countries, into a world of glass buildings, private jets, and powerful boardrooms. Now he was known as a tycoon, a man whose name appeared in business magazines and financial news. People spoke of his success with admiration and envy. Yet as his black luxury car slowed down at the edge of the small town, none of that seemed to matter anymore. The town looked smaller than he remembered. The roads were narrow, the shops simple, and the houses old but familiar. Time had changed many things, but the feeling in his chest was the same as it had been years ago, heavy and uneasy. He stared out of the car window quietly, saying nothing to the driver. This visit was supposed to be about business. A large company he owned planned to invest in local land and build new facilities. On paper, it was a smart decision. The town was growing slowly, and the opportunity promised profit. Still, deep inside, he knew this trip was about more than money. As the car passed the old bus stop, memories began to rise without warning. He remembered standing there as a young man, holding a small suitcase, dreaming of a better life. Back then, he had nothing but ambition. He believed success waited somewhere far away, and staying in this town meant failure. He had promised himself he would never look back. Now, sitting in a car worth more than most homes in the town, he wondered why his heart felt so restless. People on the streets glanced at the car with curiosity. They did not recognize the man inside. To them, he was just another rich visitor. But to the town itself, he was a son who had left and never returned. He noticed the old bakery still standing at the corner, the same place where he once bought cheap bread when money was tight. The school building looked worn but unchanged. Each familiar sight pulled him deeper into the past. He adjusted his suit, suddenly feeling uncomfortable in it. The fine fabric and polished shoes felt out of place here. This town knew him as someone else, a poor young man with big dreams and empty pockets. He wondered what people would think if they knew who he had become. More importantly, he wondered what they would think if they knew how he had left. The car stopped near a small hotel where he planned to stay. As he stepped out, a cool breeze touched his face. It carried the smell of dust, old trees, and distant cooking fires. The smell made his throat tighten. For a moment, he closed his eyes. He had faced billion-dollar risks without fear, yet standing here made him feel strangely weak. Inside the hotel, everything was simple. The furniture was old but clean, the walls painted in fading colors. It was nothing like the places he usually stayed, but he had chosen it on purpose. Something inside him wanted to stay close to the ground, close to the life he once knew. As he signed the register, the hotel owner smiled politely, unaware of the guest's true identity. The tycoon almost felt relieved by that. Later that evening, he stood by the window of his room, looking out at the quiet street. The town seemed peaceful, almost frozen in time. He told himself again that this trip was only for business. He would attend meetings, inspect land, sign documents, and leave. That was the plan. Yet his thoughts refused to obey. Old faces appeared in his mind. Old choices returned, bringing questions he had avoided for years. He asked himself if success had truly given him everything. He had wealth, respect, and power, but also long nights of loneliness. There were moments when even the tallest buildings felt empty. Standing there, looking at the town below, he felt a strange pull, as if the past was calling him back, asking to be faced at last. He did not know that this return was only the beginning. He did not know that the town still held secrets meant for him, or that a single meeting would soon shake his carefully built world. For now, he simply stood in silence, unaware that his life was about to change in ways money could never control. The next morning, the tycoon woke up earlier than usual. Sleep had not come easily. His mind was full of old thoughts he believed he had buried long ago. As sunlight entered the small hotel room, it revealed a world very different from his usual mornings in high-rise apartments and luxury hotels. The sounds outside were simple, people talking, birds calling, a shop opening its shutters. These sounds felt strangely personal, as if they were speaking directly to him. He decided to walk through the town alone. He did not want bodyguards or assistants. For the first time in years, he wanted to be just a man, not a powerful name. As he walked slowly, every step brought back memories he had tried to forget. This town was not just a place from his past, it was where his first dreams, first struggles, and first love were born. He remembered her clearly. She was kind, strong, and full of hope, even when life was hard. They had met when they were both young, both poor, and both dreaming of something better. She believed in him before anyone else did. When he spoke about leaving the town to chase success, she listened with pride, not fear. She trusted him completely. That trust now felt like a weight on his chest. They had made promises to each other under simple skies, with no wealth and no certainty. He had promised to return once he made something of himself. He had promised a better life. But ambition is a powerful thing. As opportunities came, letters became fewer. Calls stopped. Slowly, without ever saying goodbye properly, he disappeared from her life. At the time, he convinced himself it was necessary. Love, he believed, could wait. Success could not. As he passed the old park, he stopped. This was where they used to sit for hours, talking about the future. The bench was still there, old and cracked. He touched it gently, as if touching a memory. He wondered if she ever came here anymore, or if this place hurt her too much to return. A deep sense of guilt settled inside him, heavier than any loss he had faced in business. He asked around casually, pretending curiosity. He did not use her name at first, only asking about people from the past. Most had moved away, some had passed on. The town had continued living while he had been gone. Finally, when he softly spoke her name, there was a pause. The shopkeeper looked at him closely but said nothing meaningful. That silence spoke louder than words. For the first time, fear touched him. Not the fear of failure or loss of money, but fear of truth. What if she hated him? What if she had suffered because of him? He realized that no amount of wealth could protect him from the answers waiting in this town. As he walked further, he noticed how different life here was. People smiled easily. Children ran freely in the streets. There was hardship, yes, but also warmth. He wondered what kind of life she had lived without him. Had she married? Had she built a family? The thought made his chest tighten, though he knew he had no right to feel that pain. By the time the sun began to set, he felt emotionally exhausted. He returned to the hotel, carrying memories heavier than his expensive suit. Sitting alone, he finally admitted something to himself that he had never said out loud: leaving had been easy, but forgetting had never been possible. No matter how far he had gone, a part of him had always remained in this town, with her. That night, as darkness covered the streets, he stared at the ceiling, replaying moments from a life he once lived. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he felt certain of one thing. His return was not a coincidence. The past was no longer willing to stay silent. Something awaited him, something that would force him to face the consequences of the choices he made long ago. Late in the afternoon, the Tycoon decided to visit the local market. He told himself it was only to observe the town's daily life, to understand the people before finalizing his business plans. The market was crowded but calm, filled with small stalls, fresh vegetables, and familiar voices calling out prices. The air smelled of spices and dust, and the sound of footsteps and soft laughter surrounded him. For a moment, he felt like an outsider watching a life that once belonged to him. He walked slowly, his eyes moving from one stall to another, trying not to think too much. Then suddenly, his steps stopped. His heart skipped, and his breath caught in his throat. Across the narrow path, near a fruit cellar, he saw a woman standing with 2 children. Even after all these years, he recognized her instantly. Time had changed her face slightly, but her posture, her eyes, and the quiet strength she carried were the same. It was her. Before he could react, his eyes moved to the children beside her. Two boys, about 6 or 7 years old, standing close together. They were holding her hands, one on each side. The tycoon felt the world around him grow silent. The noise of the market faded as his focus narrowed to the twins. They looked so alike it was almost unreal. But what shook him most was not just that they were identical to each other, it was that they looked exactly like him when he was a child. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. He told himself it was coincidence. Many children looked similar, he thought. But the shape of their faces, the eyes, the way one of them frowned slightly, it was all too familiar. His chest tightened, and a cold fear ran through him. The woman turned, and their eyes met. For a second, neither of them moved. Her expression changed slowly, from surprise to shock, then to something deeper, pain mixed with anger and disbelief. She had not expected to see him again, not here, not ever. The tycoon felt frozen. He wanted to speak, to say her name, but no sound came out. She looked away quickly, tightening her grip on the twins' hands. Without saying a word, she turned and began to walk away. That simple action felt like a knife in his chest. He stood there, surrounded by people, yet completely alone. His heart raced as questions flooded his mind. Were the children really? No, it couldn't be. And yet, nothing else made sense. One of the twins looked back as they walked away. Their eyes met briefly. The boy's face showed curiosity, not fear. That look stayed with the tycoon, burning itself into his memory. He felt dizzy, as if the ground beneath him was no longer steady. He wanted to follow them, to stop her, to demand answers. But his feet would not move. Fear held him back, fear of the truth, fear of what he might hear. By the time he gathered himself, they were gone, lost among the narrow streets and busy stalls. The market noise returned suddenly, loud and overwhelming. People pushed past him, unaware that his entire world had just shifted. He leaned against a nearby wall, trying to steady his breathing. His hands were shaking. He had faced many shocking moments in business, but none had ever made him feel this helpless. He left the market without buying anything. His mind replayed the scene again and again, the children's faces, her eyes, the way she turned away. Each memory made his heart beat faster. Back in his hotel room, he paced the floor like a restless man. The room felt smaller now, almost suffocating. That night, sleep was impossible. He sat by the window, staring into the dark street below. The question he had avoided all these years now stood clearly in front of him. Had she been hiding something from him? Or had he been too blind, too focused on success, to see what he left behind? For the first time since his return, the tycoon felt real fear. Not fear of losing money or power, but fear of facing a past that could change everything. Deep down, he knew this was no accident. Meeting her, seeing those twins, it was the beginning of a truth he could no longer escape. The following day felt heavier than the one before. The tycoon woke with a tight chest and a restless mind. The image of the twins would not leave him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw their faces again, clear, familiar, and haunting. He tried to tell himself that he was overthinking, that emotions were playing tricks on him. But no matter how hard he tried, doubt had already taken root. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at his hands. These hands had signed contracts worth millions, yet now they trembled slightly. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. He asked himself again and again whether it was possible. The timing, the age of the children, the way they looked, everything pointed in one direction. Still, accepting that truth felt terrifying. He stepped outside to clear his mind, walking without direction through the quiet streets. The town was waking up slowly. Shopkeepers opened their doors, and children in school uniforms laughed as they passed him. He watched them closely, noticing small details, their smiles, their careless joy. Each laugh felt like a reminder of something he had missed. His thoughts moved between fear and denial. Part of him wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding. Another part, the one he could not silence, told him the truth was already standing in front of him. If the twins were his, then his success had been built on abandonment. That thought crushed him more than any business loss ever could. He remembered the day he left the town. He had been so sure of his choice. He believed love could wait and that returning with success would fix everything. But life did not pause as he chased his dreams. Time had moved forward, and consequences had grown quietly in his absence. Back in his room, he tried to focus on work. His phone buzzed with messages from partners and advisors. Normally, this would have demanded his full attention. Today, it meant nothing. Numbers on a screen could not compete with the storm inside his heart. He turned the phone off, something he rarely ever did. Guilt began to surface, slow and painful. If the twins were truly his, then he had missed their first steps, their first words, their first birthdays. He imagined them growing up without a father, asking questions that had no answers. The thought made his throat tighten. He realized that no amount of money could buy back lost time. At the same time, fear whispered dark questions. What if she hated him? What if she refused to let him near the children? What if the truth destroyed whatever peace she had built? He understood then that knowing the truth meant accepting responsibility, and that responsibility could change his life forever. He went back to the market area, hoping to see her again, but she was nowhere to be found. Every woman he passed made his heart jump for a second. Every pair of children caught his attention. The town felt smaller now, as if the truth was hiding just around the corner, waiting for him to face it. As evening approached, he sat alone in a small cafe, untouched tea growing cold in front of him. He listened to the quiet conversations around him, ordinary lives continuing as usual. He wondered how many secrets were hidden behind calm faces, how many stories went untold. By nightfall, one thought became clear. Running away was no longer an option. He had spent his whole life moving forward, never looking back. Now the past had caught up with him, standing directly in his path. Whether he wanted it or not, he would have to face it. Lying in bed later that night, he stared at the ceiling in silence. Doubt, fear, and regret mixed together inside him. He knew that tomorrow would bring answers, and those answers might shatter the life he had built. Yet deep inside, beneath the fear, there was also something else, hope. Hope that it was not too late to do what he should have done long ago. The next morning, the Tycoon made a decision he could no longer delay. Doubt had tortured him enough. He needed the truth, no matter how painful it might be. For the first time in many years, he felt nervous about meeting someone, not investors or rivals, but a woman from his past who knew him before money changed everything. He asked quietly around the town, careful not to reveal too much. This time, people spoke more openly. They told him where she lived now, a modest house on a quiet street near the edge of town. Standing in front of that house later that day, he felt his legs grow heavy. The house was small but clean, with plants near the door. It looked like a home built with care, not wealth. He raised his hand to knock, then stopped. Fear rushed through him again. What if she refused to speak to him? What if she shut the door in his face? After a long moment, he knocked anyway. The sound echoed louder than he expected. The door opened slowly. She stood there, frozen, clearly shocked to see him. Her eyes filled with emotions she tried hard to hide, anger, sadness, and something softer he could not name. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Years of silence stood between them. She finally broke the quiet. Her voice was calm but distant. She asked why he was here. He struggled to find words, then simply said he needed to talk. After a pause, she stepped aside and let him in. Inside, the house was simple and warm. Family photos hung on the wall. His eyes were drawn immediately to one picture, the twins, smiling brightly. His heart sank. There was no denying it now. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. She noticed his gaze and sighed deeply. She told him to sit down. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured water into a glass. Then she spoke, slowly and honestly, as if she had rehearsed this moment many times in her mind. Yes, the twins were his. The words hit him harder than any blow. He felt the room spin slightly. He asked why she never told him. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed strong. She said when she found out she was pregnant, he was already gone. No letters, no calls, no address. She waited, hoping he would return as promised. Months passed. Then years. She explained that she chose not to chase him. She did not want to beg for love or force responsibility. She believed that if he truly cared, he would come back on his own. When he did not, she accepted that she would raise the children alone. The tycoon listened in silence, shame pressing down on him. Every word confirmed what he already knew: he had failed her, and he had failed his children. He apologized, his voice breaking. He said he never knew, that he would have returned if he had known. She looked at him sadly and replied that knowing too late changes nothing. The twins' laughter suddenly echoed from another room. They ran in, stopping when they saw a stranger sitting there. She gently introduced him, not as their father, but as an old friend. The boys studied him with curiosity. One of them smiled, the same smile he had seen in the mirror as a child. His heart nearly broke. He wanted to hug them, to tell them everything, but he understood it was not his place yet. Trust had to be earned. He thanked her for telling him the truth and said he wanted to be part of their lives, not as a rich man, but as a responsible one. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she told him that money would never replace presence. If he truly wanted redemption, it would take time, patience, and honesty. He nodded, knowing she was right. As he left the house, the truth settled fully inside him. He was not just a tycoon anymore. He was a father who had arrived late. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in years, he felt something real guiding him forward, not ambition, but responsibility. After leaving her house, the tycoon did not return to the hotel right away. He walked aimlessly through the streets, his mind heavy with the truth he had just heard. The word father echoed in his thoughts again and again. It felt strange, almost unreal. He had built companies, led thousands of employees, and controlled fortunes, yet he had no idea how to be a parent. That realization frightened him more than anything else. Every step felt slower than before. The town seemed different now, no longer just a place from his past, but a place connected to his future. He replayed her words in his mind: money would never replace presence. For the first time, his wealth felt small. All the success he once believed would complete him suddenly seemed empty. Back in his hotel room, he opened his laptop out of habit, scrolling through emails and business updates. A major deal awaited his approval, one that would require him to leave town within days. Normally, he would have signed without hesitation. This time, his hand paused over the screen. The idea of leaving again made his chest tighten. He closed the laptop without responding. Regret settled in deeply. He thought of the years he had missed, the birthdays, the illnesses, the small everyday moments that shape a child's life. He imagined the twins learning to ride bicycles, going to school, asking questions about their father. They had grown without him, and that was a pain he would carry forever. No apology could erase it. That evening, he returned to her house, not to demand anything, but to listen. He stood outside for a long moment, unsure if he should knock. When he finally did, she opened the door with caution. He told her he was not there to make promises he could not keep. He said he wanted to understand what the children needed and how he could support them properly. She listened carefully, arms crossed, protective but calm. She spoke honestly about the struggles she had faced raising the twins alone. There were days she had been exhausted, afraid, and unsure. But she also spoke of strength, of how the children had become her reason to move forward. She made it clear that they were not missing love, they had it. What they lacked was a father's presence, not a rich sponsor. The tycoon accepted her words without argument. For the first time in his life, he did not try to control the situation. He asked if he could spend time around the children, slowly, without confusion or pressure. She hesitated, then agreed, warning him that trust would not come easily. The next few days changed him in ways he never expected. He met the twins in simple moments, watching them play, listening to their stories, helping them with small tasks. They did not see him as powerful or important. To them, he was just a man learning how to fit into their world. Their laughter filled a space inside him he never knew was empty. At night, when he returned to his hotel, he felt emotionally drained but strangely peaceful. He realized that responsibility was not a burden, it was a chance. A chance to become better, to grow beyond the man he had been. His ambition had once driven him forward. Now, something deeper was guiding him. He began to make quiet changes. He postponed meetings, delegated decisions, and slowed his pace. People around him noticed, but he did not explain. For the first time, business was not his top priority. One evening, as he watched the twins run ahead of him down a dusty street, he understood something clearly. Redemption was not about fixing the past, it was about showing up in the present. He knew the road ahead would be long and uncertain. Trust would take time, and forgiveness might never fully come. Still, he was ready to try. Not as a tycoon, not as a powerful figure, but as a man willing to take responsibility for the life he helped create. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by simple laughter, he felt richer than he ever had before. The following morning, the tycoon woke with a sense of determination he had not felt in years. He knew that building a relationship with the twins would not be easy, and he understood that money and status could never replace the trust he had lost. Today, he would take the first real steps to earn their place in their lives. He dressed simply, leaving behind the usual tailored suits and expensive accessories. Today, he wanted to be a part of their world, not an outsider looking in. When he arrived at the house, the twins were already outside, playing near the garden. He stopped a few feet away, unsure if he should call to them or simply observe. He remembered their mother's words, trust could not be forced, it had to be earned. He crouched down on the ground, keeping his distance, and started talking softly. He asked their names, inquired about their day, and commented on the small flowers growing nearby. The twins looked at him with curiosity, but their smiles were cautious. They had seen many people come and go, and they were not easily convinced. One of the boys, the older twin, studied him carefully, as if measuring whether he could be trusted. Over the next few hours, the tycoon focused on small gestures. He helped the children water the plants, showed them how to tie their shoelaces, and even joined them in a simple game of catch. Laughter came slowly but genuinely. The children began to speak to him, asking questions about small things, the color of his shoes, where he lived, and why he came back. Each question was answered with honesty, even when the answers were incomplete or awkward. The twins' mother watched silently from a distance, her eyes cautious but attentive. She saw that he was trying, not to impress her, but to connect with her children. For the first time, she noticed that his presence was gentle, patient, and consistent. This was not a man demanding affection, this was a man willing to earn it. By the afternoon, the tycoon and the twins had shared snacks, stories, and small adventures around the yard. They began to laugh freely, a sound that warmed him more than any business success ever had. He realized that connection was built not through grand gestures but through time, attention, and sincerity. Each small moment mattered. Later, when the mother called them inside, the twins waved at him without hesitation. That wave, simple as it was, felt like a victory. He understood that building trust would take months, maybe years, but for the first time, he felt hopeful. He was no longer an absent father, he was beginning the slow journey to becoming a real one. That evening, back in his hotel room, he reflected on the day. He realized that responsibility was not a punishment, it was an opportunity to grow, to love, and to be loved in return. He also understood that redemption could not be rushed. Each day, each interaction, each smile earned would build the foundation for a relationship that money could never buy. For the first time, he felt what it meant to be truly present. Not a tycoon, not a businessman, but a man willing to face the consequences of his past and work tirelessly to create a meaningful future. And as he drifted off to sleep, he promised himself that he would never leave their lives again, no matter how difficult the journey might be. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges, questions, and delicate emotions. But for the first time, the tycoon felt that he was walking in the right direction. The past could not be undone, but the future, slow, patient, and sincere, was something he could still shape. And in that realization, he found a wealth far greater than any fortune he had ever earned. The sun rose slowly over the small town, casting a golden light across the streets the tycoon once knew so well. Today felt different, weighty, yet filled with possibility. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions, discoveries, and small victories, and he knew that everything had led him to this moment. The house where his ex and the twins lived had become more than a place, it had become a bridge between the life he had built and the life he had missed. He walked to the house with a quiet determination. The twins were already outside, playing a game of tag with innocent laughter echoing through the street. When they saw him, they paused for a moment, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. But then they ran toward him, cautiously, with a mixture of curiosity and recognition. The tycoon knelt down and greeted them gently, keeping his hands open and calm. He had learned that patience, not authority, would earn their trust. The morning passed in quiet moments of connection. They showed him their small world, trees they climbed, stones they collected, and little drawings they had made. He asked questions, listened to stories, and even made mistakes, dropping a stone or tripping over a stick. Each mistake brought laughter rather than judgment. He realized that these simple moments, not power or money, were what truly mattered. Their mother watched from the doorway, arms folded, her expression unreadable. But the tycoon noticed subtle changes, relaxed shoulders, softening eyes, and small nods as he interacted with the children. Trust was slowly being built, not forced, but earned through sincerity and presence. He began to understand what she had meant when she said money could never replace time. As the afternoon sun grew warmer, he suggested they all sit under a large tree in the yard. He told them stories from his own childhood, leaving out the wealth and success, focusing instead on the lessons, the mistakes, and the funny moments that shaped him. The twins listened, rapt and wide-eyed, their laughter punctuating his tales. He realized that honesty, humility, and openness were the keys to connection, far more than any gift or promise he could have offered. By evening, the tycoon knew that his life had shifted irrevocably. He had spent decades chasing ambition, wealth, and recognition, yet none of that had filled the emptiness he now recognized. Presence, love, and responsibility, these were the things he had been missing. And now, for the first time, he felt he had a chance to truly belong. He spoke with their mother privately as the twins played inside. They discussed boundaries, expectations, and how he could integrate himself into their lives gradually and respectfully. She expressed her concerns but also acknowledged his efforts. She saw that he was no longer running from the past but willing to face it honestly. That honesty, more than anything, began to rebuild the bridge between them. That night, as the tycoon walked back to his hotel, he reflected on the journey. The past could not be changed. He could not undo the years he had missed, the moments he could never reclaim. But he could shape what came next. The future was no longer just about business deals or luxury, it was about family, responsibility, and presence. He understood now that true wealth was not measured in currency or power. It was measured in trust, love, and the moments shared with those who matter most. And as he gazed at the quiet town, he felt a deep, unwavering resolve. He would stay connected, remain present, and slowly, day by day, earn the place he had lost in the lives of his children. For the first time, the tycoon felt whole in a way money could never provide. His empire could wait, but the family he had found could not. And in that realization, he discovered a richness deeper and more enduring than any fortune, a richness born of love, responsibility, and the courage to face the past while building a meaningful future. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, doubts, and setbacks. But for the first time in decades, he was ready. Ready to embrace his role as a father, ready to rebuild relationships, and ready to live a life guided not by ambition alone, but by the bonds that truly matter. And in that quiet town, where his story had begun, a new chapter was finally beginning.